Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Phyllo and today we're going to take a look at the Warrior questline 1 through 50 for ARR. And without further ado, let's get started, shall we? Heading over to Limsa Laminsa and taking the Aetheryte port to the Marauders Guild, we talk to Balthota, who tells us that people who train under the guild will be wielding an axe with 2 hands and a sharp blade. If we want to make Marauders art our life's work, then we are welcome to the guild with open arms. We accept the recruitment and she tells us some history about the Marauders Guild. It all started with ships. What do ships have to do with axes, you say? Well, building them would be pretty bloody difficult without a sturdy tool to chop down trees for lumber. And since only the navigator herself knows when the ships sink or worse, it makes sense for a crew's carpenter to carry an axe on board. But any tool on a ship can become a weapon, and the axe is for hooking yourself over the railing of an enemy vessel, letting loose in a whirl of steel and being able to kill around me. Because more seafarers took up the axe as their weapon of choice, so did the art of Marauder begin to take shape, especially among pirates, where strength and skill decide your place in the world. An eye to assemble crews of battle-ready raiders, the pirates teach the proper way to wield a chipped blade to their new recruits, and that's how the Marauders Guild first came to be. Once again, she asks us to confirm us wanting to join the guild, which we do, since we are now ready to join. We are sent to talk to the leader, Wernzoen. Wernzoen tells us he is known as the Axe Master, and while not most imaginative of titles, it is but one to not underestimate the value of directness, and he welcomes our interest in the guild. The art of Marauder is used to rend, cleave, and destroy. They do not simply try to cut down their adversaries, but also overwhelm them. A Marauder must be the most powerful and enduring presence equal to those on the battlefield, for the role of combat is that of steel whirlwind, dealing death and destruction. Once more, he wants us to commit to the challenge and asks us if we are prepared for the bloody carnage that awaits an initiate of the Marauders Guild. And we accept. He asks us for our name before telling us to remember his path of dedication. The path of a marauder is jagged and a perilous one. He gives us an axe as a symbol of commitment. He wants us to learn how to hold it and set ourselves in a solid stance. He sends us to kill some low mobs out in Limsa. After killing off some low-level mobs, we return to the Axe Master, where he comments that already our face shows a harder look in the realization of the slaughter we are capable of. At level 5, you can return to the Axe Master for the next quest, where he comments that we have more of a marauder stride, and time has come for us to start our new stage in training. Our lesson focuses on strength as a marauder. This process has been passed down through the generations of the guild, and now it will be taught to us. We are to see Brobenher in the practice area downstairs, where we will be instructed further. Downstairs, Brobenher introduces himself to us and tells us that axe wielders built strength and control by splitting boulders. Their traditional method is smashing rocks. You can't just go swinging your axe at any old rock, though, and thus he sends us to Rotgim, who is a fellow marauder waiting outside the Zephyr Gate by Rogue River. After meeting up with Rotgim, she sends us to split some rocks using our heavy swing ability. After destroying some rocks, she sends us back to the Axe Master and lets him know we're ready for something harder. The Axe Master comments that training has loosened our muscles and focused our mind. He has received an urgent request for help from the Red Rooster Steed and has chosen us to respond. It appears a hostile group of megalocrabs has been causing trouble and therefore elected us as our next test of prowess. This is to be our first official Marauder duty and will be accompanied by a conjurer by the name of Slovweb. Upon meeting Slovweb, she tells us that her brother is the Axe Master and often has her escort the newer Marauders on their first task. She informs us that farmers need us to clear out the crab's nest near the Morning Meadow in Lower Leminsa, and we are to meet up with her there. Upon arriving in the area, Slovweb comments that there are no crabs in sight before we hear someone yelling for help. An old man comes running up to us and tells us his grandson has been attacked by crabs after getting too close and needs help. We and Slovweb quickly rush to the boy's aid to defend him from the crabs. We easily cut down a few of the crabs before more show up. Before they can outmatch us, though, Brohimbar shows up and aids us in slaying the crabs. The boy is thankfully unharmed, but sad that he can no longer play outside, as scary monsters are everywhere. Even his mom and dad were killed by a monster named Orek, and as big as a mountain. I bet you could beat it. Make it pay for what it did to me folks, he yells at us. Slovweb assures him that plenty of people in the guild can do what he asks of us, and there is no need to get upset. She assures him all he needs to do is go home with his grandfather and let us worry about the monster. The boy looks at his grandfather, who nods in approval. Before they leave, Slovweb tells us our first duty is a success, and we should head back to the Axe Master before he thinks something bad happened. Upon returning, we tell him we have defeated the Megalo crabs and saved the life of a child. He tells us we've done well and that he knows the beast which the boy spoke of. The monster is known as a terror that roams the land of Lenosia, seeking to expand its territory. He asks us if we want vengeance for the boy, and if so, not to act on them yet, as the monster in question is too strong for us right now. He encourages us to get stronger and become a raging behemoth this challenge will demand. At level 10, we return to the Axe Master for our next trials. He informs us that while we were training, he has gathered more information concerning the beast, which is named Kujata, which means stretch in Swahili, but I'm not really sure they're related. Anyone to have witnessed Kujata in the flesh also called him Stampeding Mountain due to his immense size and bulk. He assures us that he does not want to dissuade us from seeking vengeance for the boy's parents, but in fact encourages us. However, he wants us to be ready to take on Kujata when we are equal in strength and ferocity. To help us with our goal, he sends us to Blind Iron Mines, as he has received word that people are falling prey to the local Galagos. It is our task to protect the people from these creatures by learning to channel the rage inside of us. We head to the area and quickly make work of the Galago, and they are no longer a threat to the people in the area. Upon returning to the Axe Master, he thanks us for we have saved many from needless injury and anguish, but there is still much work to be done. He sends us on another mission to protect the cargo of an overturned wagon. That's cargo is at risk by scavengers. Heading to the site and inspecting the cargo, we run into some hostile plane striders and quickly beat them down before returning to the Axe Master in Limsa. He commends us, for our carnage has been tested and proven. He tells us that though the creatures we defeated were merely some of many base scavengers left in the wake of Kujata's rampage, and to face Kujata ourselves requires more training. He promises us that as the Axe Master and fellow Marauder, he will not rest until he has taught us every last ounce of power for our weapon, and the blaze of our axe can slice cleanly through the thickest hide. At level 15, we return once again to the Axe Master to be assigned our next task. There have been reports of sizable creatures roaming the outskirts of Aleport in western Lenosia. While the monster is not Kujata, the threat it presents to the locals is nonetheless sufficient to warrant our attention and should prove worthy test for us. We are sent to talk to the veteran hunter and archer by the names of Reinfred, who is currently residing in Aleport. Reinfred tells us that he's known the Axe Master since he was very small, commenting that he was kind of a big guy. He tells us that our local trouble is northwest up towards Camp Skull Valley. The local troublemaker is named Patry Patton, and if we run across the weeded plains, he will think we're trespassing on his territory, so we should have our cleaver ready. Once arriving in the area, we encounter Patry Patton and defeat him with ease. When we arrive back at the Marauders Guild, we speak with the Axe Master. He tells us that Reinfred has been praising us and that our representation of the guild has been exemplary. He sends us off to one last task that will demonstrate how strong we've become. We are to report to Scapfragim, and he will help us unravel the untapped power of our axe. When we arrive at the planed location, he tells us that he knows why we've arrived, and that after seeing the huge boulder, we know why as well. Without any trouble, we break the boulder into pieces, and he tells us he's impressed that we got it on our first attempt. When speaking with the Axe Master back in the guild, he tells us he knows we'd return soon, for the crack of the shattering boulder reached even his ears from here. Our feat of strength deserves recognition, and we shall receive it in the form of a new technique. At level 20, we return to the Axe Master, who is clearly unhappy. He tells us that the boy whose parents had been slain by Kujata has gone missing, and his grandfather has contacted the guild for help. More than likely, the recent sighting of Kujata could have compelled the child to seek him out. Because we know the boy, he is assigning us with Slovweb for the mission, and we are to meet her back at the Bismarck. When we arrive at the Bismarck, we speak with the grandfather. He tells us he is sorry for the trouble his grandson is causing us, but also understands that he is filled with hate for the beast. After seeing us in action when we saved him from the crabs, he's become inspired and wanted to go after the beast himself. And once he heard Kujata had been spotted near Aleport, he shot through the door like an arrow from the bow. Talking to Solvweb, she tells us that we are set for Aleport at once. She also happens to know someone who stands guard at the port gates. Once we arrive at Aleport, we talk to Solvweb's friend, and he tells us that he's seen a young boy heading north. Him and the other guards were arguing whether or not to abandon the post and retrieve the young boy. Large pack of jackals have been prowling the wilds as of late, so we should go after him quickly if we are intending to find him. When looking for Sigurd, we find his water skin, and while picking it up, we are attacked by Cattle Tyrant, but they are quickly dealt with. Soon we find the satchel as well, and are once again attacked by Cattle Tyrant. We approach Solvweb and show her the items we have received, and she tells us he must have been in a hurry to throw stuff away or leave it behind. Quickly, we run in and begin to clear the jackals from the area and protect the boy. The Axemaster tells us to withdraw to the Red Rooster Steed for the time being. Once we arrive in Red Rooster Steed, we talk to Neddard while Solkvweb tends to Sigurd. He is overjoyed that we were able to save Sigurd and bring him home. Solkvweb tells us that he will be okay and that he struck his head when he fell, so it may be a bit before he opens his eyes. She also thanks the Axemaster for coming to our aid, but he tells her that he has done nothing that earns praise, for once he learned the situation from Aleport, he realized no Marauder could have been able to fend off the beast alone. He apologizes to Neddard for not being able to protect the boy better. Neddard simply tells him that he saved Sigurd and protected the foolish boy. The Axemaster promises Kujata will be made accountable for what has happened before leaving. At level 25, we once again make our way to the Axemaster, where he tells us something disastrous has been found. There's a pack that follow Kujata that is an overwhelming number of them, and even the most dedicated Marauder could not hope to defeat them all. If we cannot get rid of the pack, we cannot hope to attack Kujata. Once again, he sends us to meet with Solkvweb at the Bismarck to help with our next trial in our training. When talking to Solkvweb, she remarks his comment on pride of the guild and that her brother has placed a burden on our shoulders, but she believes we have the skill and determination to cut down Kujata. She tells us to meet her at Salt Strand in Lower Lenosa, where our training is to take place. In Salt Strand, we take on a gang of Morbay hedge moles, while keeping Solkvweb safe from them. Solkvweb begins to comment on the fight before being interrupted by someone. She asks him who he is, but then realizes she knows the man. The mysterious man shouts that they have deemed us worthy for the challenge and to come at them and test ourselves. Quickly and swiftly, we defeat them in combat. The mysterious man approaches us and says his underlings have made poor sport for us, but now it is time to take him on ourselves. After defeating him, he tells us our strength has humbled them and may just be enough. He tells his colleagues that they are leaving and tells us our display of power was truly impressive and worthy before leaving. Solkvweb says the whole thing is ridiculous charade, but she thinks he disguised himself so the trial seemed more threatening, which would increase the effectiveness. While his disguise was easily seen through, we must appreciate his intentions. She asks that when we return to the guild to pretend we did not know it was him. Upon returning to the guild, we are rewarded for defeating the opponents with great skill, and we do keep our promise of not revealing we knew it was them. The Axemaster tells us the most important thing is that we triumphed when faced with overwhelming odds. Our fellow guild members are now honored to stand behind us as we prepare to overcome the greatest trial yet, Kujata. At level 30, we speak with the Axemaster, and he tells us Kujata has made his presence known, and it is now time for us to confront him. Reports have placed him northeast of Red Rooster Steed in the vicinity of the Grey Fleet. The Axemaster has nothing left to say except that we must harness all the strength we have built through our labors of sweat and blood and unleash it with full fury upon Kujata and his menagerie of scavengers. Sigurd is praying for our victory, and we must go to the boy before the battle to let him know we fight for his vengeance. When we visit Sigurd, he apologizes for running off to face Kujata before. Excitedly, he tells us we will come out of this victorious and finally put an end to Kujata's reign. We agree, and before he can leave, Brohimbar tells us he is coming along to help, since more than likely Kujata will have friends of his own. Sokveb is also with him and tells us she will lend an aid to us, as we've both been through a lot, and she wants to see this to the end as well. We head off to the fields and find an item that was dragged from the farmers, and while inspecting it, we are attacked by Cattle Tyrant, which we quickly defeat. Further ahead, we find an item from the farmers, but this time we are attacked by a Plain Strider, which we also quickly defeat. Again, we find another item belonging to the farmers, but are attacked by a giant oxpecker. Finally, we find the cart belonging to the farmers, and while inspecting it, we are finally confronted by Kujata himself. With Brohimbar and Sokveb at our side, we finally confront Kujata, and after a long and tedious battle, we defeat him. After Kujata falls, we hear Sigurd call out to us, and we turn to see the Axemaster, Sigurd, and his grandfather. Sigurd tells us the Axemaster brought him there so he could see Kujata dead himself. And after looking at the beast, he tearfully tells us that we did it, and asks his mom and dad if they can see that Kujata is finally dead. He thanks us for all of our help and asks if he himself could learn to swing an axe like ours when he is older, so he can also protect people. The Axemaster assures him with hard training there is nothing he can't do. Sigurd tells us he'll become the strongest warrior ever before leaving. When we return to the Axemaster at the guild, he tells us our victory was a mighty feat, and never has he seen a marauder so dedicated to attaining the principles of his discipline. In recognition of our achievements, he passes on our final technique, the thrill of the battle. And that's all for this episode. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take care, everyone.